Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome again to my channel, Sami Higab. I'm your host, and today I'll be sharing the QEMU virtualization tool, or very similar to VirtualBox, and I'll do an emulation of the RISC-V architecture, and I'll be doing all that on Windows 11 Linux subsystem. So that will be very interesting. I've only seen tutorials talking about doing it in VirtualBox or in QEMU, and there's a lot of great YouTubers out there that cover this topic brilliantly, far better than me. I'm just a beginner in this field, and the reason why I'm doing this is it's because that's what my religion tells me to do, is to share knowledge, learn new skills and share it, teach. So read, study, and then teach others to do the same. Pay it forward. So I'm trying to, as a way of as a way of worship in my way of life as being a Muslim. So, and the second reason is really I'm actually doing a PhD in this field, where I'm looking into developing on the RISC-V ecosystem. My background's in the financial sector, so I've worked as a financial software engineer for several years, and I'm looking to develop a financial application on the RISC-V architecture using compiled languages, obviously for performance, efficiency, and security reasons. So this is one of the areas I'm looking into quite deeply now, and as I learn or as I study the topics, I'm gonna share it out on my channel. So for anyone on a similar kind of journey, or anyone that's interested in learning a bit more about the RISC-V architecture and the benefits of RISC-V over CISC, which is the closed instruction set. So RISC is pretty much open source, it's transparent, and they offer many benefits where you can actually customize the instruction set. So RISC stands for Reduced Instruction Set Architecture, and one of the RISC processors out there that you might be familiar with is the ARM. So you got ARM, and now you've got RISC-V, which is open source implementation. And also there's no licensing. You don't need to pay license if you modify anything, as long as you stick to the instruction set. So you can extend the instruction set and create your own extensions on the architecture, and also you've got transparency on what's going on, how the architecture is developed. Unlike with the CISC, it's very much closed, and it's a bit of a magic how it works. They don't really give out, and you need licenses obviously to implement or to make use of that architecture. So that's one of the reasons, obviously. So I'm going to start off with the very, very basic, and I'm going to really assume that the viewer or anyone viewing this broadcast right now is an absolute beginner, might not have experience in Linux, might not know what I'm talking about just yet. So I'm kind of trying to tailor for a different audience as I'm sort of presenting, and I want everyone to benefit as much as possible, or as many people to benefit from this. And likewise, if I make any mistakes, do forgive me and correct me. I really appreciate any constructive criticism. I'm always trying to improve, I'm always trying to learn. Yes, I've done multiple degrees in my life, multiple master degrees in computer science and stuff. But as I'm always learning, I'm always identifying that I actually know very little. It's a big ocean. Knowledge is just a big ocean, as you're aware. If you're someone that has been a student of knowledge for some years, you would realize that actually the more you learn, the more you realize you know nothing. That's how it is. That's the reality of this world. But we have to persevere. We have to constantly keep learning and look for ways how to benefit society, and that's the ultimate goal, is to share knowledge and contribute. And one of the ways, as well as a PhD, when you're researching, you're looking at a particular aspect of knowledge and you're focusing on that and becoming really a specialist in that area, and with the intention obviously to make a contribution to the academia and society as a whole. So that's my goal in life, is to make a contribution. Service to many leads to greatness, and this is my way of also sharing knowledge, is through this YouTube channel, which I like to add is a non-profit channel. I will be monetizing the channel, but all the profits that come from this channel will be donated to charity, and I'm currently working with a couple of charities. Goodwill Caravan, which focuses on combating human trafficking and smugglers and organ trade and that kind of stuff, as well as supporting refugees and providing humanitarian aid and various things. And they're pretty much 100% donation policy, so pretty much all the money, and I'm trying to push it at like that, to always be 100% donation going purely directly to the cause. And the other charity that I'm working with is SQT Welfare, and they look at various projects from water wells to building homes for refugees, and then providing humanitarian aid again, and disaster relief and so on. So yeah, they're very broad. They have a long history, and so I'm looking to work with a couple of these charities, which I am working with right now, and I've been supporting a number of charities for several years now. So yeah, this is one of my passions, is to pay it forward and make this contribution, whether it's through social benefit, education, or any means at all. Yeah. So let's just get started. I want to keep it very simple, and we'll look first. I'll just give you an idea of. Let me just open up what QEMU web page looks like, so you've got the idea of what that looks like. So this is the QEMU page here, qemu.org. You can download it on Windows and you can use it as, it's very similar to VirtualBox, but it's far more efficient. You can spin off a Linux distro or any operating system much quicker than VirtualBox. It's very impressive, and it's got more features, functionality, and yes, I would highly recommend having a look at QEMU. So you can install it on Windows directly, and that's fine. So you can download it on Windows, Mac, or Linux, any distro, and make use of it in that way. But in this broadcast, what I'll be doing is I'll be starting a Linux on Windows. So inside Windows Subsystem, it already has a Linux kernel. And specifically, I'll be looking at making use of Ubuntu. So Ubuntu 22 is the version I've got installed now, and I'll show you how to do that. So you can follow along as well, and you can pretty much do what I've done, and even go beyond as well, inshallah. So first of all, I want you, if you haven't already done, if you haven't got Windows Subsystem, is to I'll get the Microsoft Store just opened just now. Here you go. So you've got your Microsoft Store, and as you can see here, we've got Windows Subsystem for Linux. Because I've got it installed, it says open. However, if in your case, if it's not installed already, just click install and it will install on your system, and that's it. It's very simple. If you face any issues, do leave a comment and I will give you some of the troubleshooting hacks. And you can also look online for Stack Overflow and other stuff. There's a lot of material and help and support regarding any technical issues. And also on Windows website as well, they have information of possible issues that you might face if you do get an issue. And it might be as very simple as doing something in your BIOS or installing some package in some PowerShell or something like that, which was very, very simple. It's not difficult at all, but it should work out the box anyway. So that's the first thing that you want to install, is the Windows Subsystem for Linux. And also, I would recommend, there's other Linux distros here, flavors of Linux, but I would recommend Ubuntu. I like Ubuntu, and I like Kali Linux as well for hacking, and that kind of stuff, ethical hacking, of course. So yeah, well, what I've got installed here is the Ubuntu 22. So if we just roll that up for just now, again, it says open because I already have it installed, so there's no issues there. So yeah, I'm going to just leave that for now. So let's just close that Microsoft Store. So once you've got that installed, Okay, this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to switch it off for now, and let's go to. So maybe I should give you like a little idea of what we're expecting to achieve. Okay, so what we're expecting to achieve is something similar to this, right? So now I've actually emulated the RISC-V. Okay, and we're not starting off here. This is just an idea where we want to end up. Okay, because I've done this before, so I'm kind of just showing you the end result, and then you work backwards. So yeah, I've already got the architecture emulated, and I've used Fedora. So what we can do is, yeah, I think it's called uname. Let's have a look here. Command that uname. Yeah. So yeah, I've got. Actually, there's two ways we can do this. Have a look at. We can just move this away. Get that screen over here. So yeah, there is a couple of ways to check the architecture. I mean, we can do the uname one, right? Okay, so that gives us a little bit of information, and if I do that, it tells me where we have a RISC-V 64-bit architecture. That's the RISC architecture here, and I'll also show you on, you know, previously before I've emulated the RISC-V, what architecture I'm running on my system right now, which is x86. But you can use something called cat, and yeah, I'm not going to go to too much detail on the commands in Linux, but you just follow along, you know, and or paste the instructions that I will have in the description below this video. I'm going to add the instructions, all the steps and that kind of stuff, different commands you can run and things like that. But you know, inshallah, God willing, I will make another video which will be like an introduction to Linux, and also make a video where we'll build our own Linux distro. There is a project called Linux from Scratch, which I'll be working through that as well. And then while I'm doing these videos, I'll be like, you know, dripping a bit of information here and there. But don't worry if you're a newbie and you're new to Linux and all that stuff. We're going to learn together. So we're just like a study group here. I'm a student as well. You're a student, and we're all learning together. We're all here to support each other. So this is another way of getting a little bit of information on the CPU. So you just put something like this, right? So this is cat, and then this in this directory here, cpuinfo, and if I put that, it should read the file. So yeah, you can see here, this is what we're emulating. Okay, and yeah, this is the instruction, the sort of like the extensions of that. So this IMAFDCS, yeah, all that. So this is the instruction set, ISA, instruction set architecture, and these are the extensions here, which we'll talk about in another video, possibly. Okay, but for now, this is what we want to achieve. We want to go into you know, the Fedora, and we can just check the directory here. Let's check what we've got here. Yeah, so it's pretty much empty. Okay, that's all I've done. I haven't done anything. There's no graphics, user interface, nothing at all. Just plain on a bare metal. That's the idea. It's going to be like on a bare metal, you know, a computer, right? So it's very much clean. There's nothing here, but we're doing Fedora in this case. Now let's go. So now we've looked at that. We're gonna just basically close this off for now, and let's have a look at where we're gonna start off. Okay, so where we're starting off is I've got Ubuntu running here, and I'm gonna do the same thing, right? So let's just do the uname. Let's grab that screen because I've got it in a different screen. So let's just do the uname again. Uname -p. That will give us the architecture, as you can see, x86-64, and that's the architecture of my computer. Okay, I've got an i7 generation 12, or the 12th generation of Intel. There's also 13th generation that came out recently. I was kind of tempted of buying a new computer at and just playing around with it and seeing how fast it is. But yeah, that's where I am now, 12th generation Intel. And yeah, so now we're gonna get started, right? Okay, I got a couple of things I want to show you, right? Although we're not going to use the GUI for the QEMU, and we're going to do everything on a command line, I will show you how to install QEMU basically on your Linux distro. If you want to do it the same way that I'm working through things right now and doing it on the on the Windows Linux subsystem, or Windows subsystem for Linux, whatever they call it, you can do what I'm doing, and what I'm doing right now can also work if you just use a distro on VirtualBox or any other virtual machine or virtualization. So yeah, you can pretty much do what I'm doing here or anything. Yeah, but if you want to follow along, you can just follow along as well. Or you watch the video in your own time, and obviously, maybe in the next video I'll get more detail, and yeah, we can progress that way. But let's just start from the very basic. Okay, let's just go for real basic now. Yeah, I've made some notes here, so I can just follow a structure in the presentation. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run a set of commands. First command I'm going to do is I'm going to work out, I just want to find out how many virtualization threads do I have on the system, and what I'm expecting it will be over 0. If it's 0, then I've got a problem. Okay, I need to fix something in the BIOS and to actually start spinning virtualizations. But if I get more than 0, I'm happy. So let's just see for my system, my i7 12th generation Intel, what am I going to get? All right, so let's just do that again. It's that the proc / cpuinfo again, but this time I'm going to use egrep. Okay, so egrep -c and then vmx svm and that. So we'll explain that in a later video. Like I said, I'm going to do an introduction into Linux and all that stuff later, and I don't want to take too much time in this, but we'll just go through the commands, so we'll get going with all this, right? So let's we'll just click here, and it tells me I've got 40 threads available, so that's good. So now we can progress, we can move on. And then next thing, when you install your Linux distro for the very first time, or you do what I'm doing right now, and you've got Ubuntu, whatever, I suggest you check if there's any updates for any packages. Keep your packages up to date for security reasons, or also so you don't have any issues later on when you start to do what we're doing right now. Is with other packages, maybe they depend on a certain version of a package, and then you'll have an issue later on. So let's just keep everything up to date with latest versions of packages. The way to do that is very simply, we're going to do sudo. Okay, sudo stands for super user do. All right, and that will give you like elevated privileges for like admin. Okay, so it's in Windows, you've got administrative privileges. So same thing in Linux, you do super user do, and you get admin privileges. It's going to ask me for a password, of course, and then I'm going to use the package manager inside Ubuntu, which is apt, and we say update. I'm not expecting anything because I've already updated the system previously, but let's just see what we get. So type my password, and let's see what we get. Okay, so what's this here? Update for this repository, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So anyway, we don't need anything. So we don't need anything here. Everything's fine. We can ignore all that. And we can now move into upgrades. So let's assume there was some updates. Okay, just so you can, in case there was some updates, apt, and then I say upgrade, like that. And of course, there's no upgrade, 0 new installed, 0 to remove, so nothing's happened. Okay, and then after that, what we'll do, we'll install the QEMU virtualization manager. Okay, so let's just do that. That will give us the GUI as well, and I'll start up the GUI so you can actually see what it looks like. Very much like VirtualBox, yeah, and you can start it in Linux, Windows, or Mac. It doesn't matter. So you've got the option. And the way to do that, I'm just going to copy the command and I'm going to paste it on the screen. Just hold on a second. So that's again super user do, and then install. So install QEMU kernel virtual manager. So the Linux kernel virtual manager, and qemu-system, so on, and also Python 3 and so on. I've already installed all that, so it shouldn't really do anything. But let's just do that again, okay? Just so you can see what happens. Now that once you're doing it for the very first time, it's going to take a little bit of time. I think the first time it took me, I think like 20 minutes, maybe less, but let's just say 20 minutes. Okay, so don't be like surprised if your system takes a little bit longer and you think, well, is there something wrong? No, it's just installing, and there's a few packages that you probably didn't install before. So yeah, it's going to take some time. Okay, and next thing we want to do is we want to verify so the lib virtual D or virtual service is active. And the way to do that, again, I'm going to do sudo and system ctl status libvirt-d.service, and that should give us active if it's correct. Okay, so here it says active running. We can ignore this for now, and yes, don't worry about that part. We'll deal with that later. But the most important thing here is this bit here, the active. It says active running. That's what we're looking for. Okay, again, we might just clear the screen. So yeah, we cleared the screen. Just type clear, and that should clear the screen. Now you've got a nice clean screen to work from again. Easier to to work and see things more clearly that way. And yeah, so now what we want to do is we want to check first of all if we've got all the services, network services are up or not. Okay, and if not, although it's running for me and it should be active, I'm going to still show you the command of how to activate it in case it wasn't active. Okay, so I'm just going to test if all the network services are active, and then we'll check on the other things, right? So let's just start with checking. So sudo so let's see, let me just type. Shall I type it or just copy it? Let's copy it and paste it. Okay, so sudo virt sl shell net list all, and that should give us all, just two basically, and both should be active. So let's have a look. Yep, so it says default, active, yes, auto start, and persistent is also yes, which is good. But let's just assume that it was no, and no whatever. The way to do it is you can do it in this way. You can just basically say net start default, like that, and here it should say it's already working, but let's just do it again. Failed to start network default, and network is already active, so we don't need to worry about that part. And the auto one as well, we can do that in case the auto one is not started. Again, we can do it exactly the same thing, auto start default, and it should say already the network default marked as auto started. So that's all fine, and now we're all good and dandy. We can carry on. Next bit, what we want to do is we want to give all the permissions to the user. And what I mean by the user is your user. For my user is qemu-kvm. Here it tells me the user qemu-kvm at qemu-kvm i7. So my username is qemu-kvm, and I'll show you. We can just quickly echo that as well. So all the system variables are stored in these variables. So user, for example, is stored inside the variable user, as you can see. So if you do echo user, it will tell you username, and you can also see it here in the prompt. So yeah, it's not difficult, but just a little side thing here for you as well, if you're new to Linux. So what we'll do is we'll run about 3-4 lines. It's not long, it's very short. This will just so it would allow us to do things as the user, the home user, without having to do all the time sudo and get their elevated admin privileges. And if I do that, that's all the permissions set, and I've done this before. And after that, you just reboot. That means you switch off the terminal here and you start again. But okay, so we could just do that now. And to start up the virtual manager, say virt-manager, like that, and it starts up the virtual manager. As you can see, I already have two systems here, the Fedora 35, and I've got Ubuntu 22 as well in this virtual machine manager. And you can start your own in this service. Is very straightforward. Just follow the instructions, fill in the whatever local install media. You got ISO image, and you locate it and select it, and spin off a distro in this virtual manager. So it's very simple, the QEMU GUI, very intuitive. So I don't need to show you that. If you're very familiar with VirtualBox, you should be familiar or have an idea how to start up, spin off a distro. The good thing about this virtual machine manager is you can also select the architecture, and you can customize the system. So you can decide how much memory, and I know you can do all these things with VirtualBox, but you can also do it here. But also you can do, like I said, the architecture. You can select the RISC-V architecture or MIBS or whatever, Android or whatever architecture you want to try out. You can try out, and whichever operating system, Android being an operating system, Android is a Linux operating system, so you can spin off that distro and start changing it. And if you're not happy, just delete it and start again, or restart. So it's very straightforward. Okay, we're not going to do that here. What we're going to do, we're going to move on. Okay, so what we want to do now is I want to tell you how we're going to start the QEMU. Before we start it on the command line here, let me just clear the screen. Okay. Before we start on the command line, I want to show you where you can pick up your image for the distro. So for me, I've selected Fedora. This is me, right? I choose Fedora because I worked at work. I mainly work on Linux, Red Hat, CentOS, which is kind of like outdated now, and you got Rocky and that kind of stuff. But I've worked on CentOS, I've worked on Linux, Red Hat, on the commercial projects, and of course Fedora is upstream, so it's more like the latest features and so on. They implement it in Fedora, and it could be potentially buggy, and it's not very stable. And then once later on, these features filter down to the next update in Red Hat, once it's all stable and solid and all the bugs are sifted through and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like it's very much the same as working with CentOS, and it's the same kind of distro, same flavor of Linux. So I'm going to work with Fedora here in this case. And later on, inshallah, God willing, I will develop our own operating system, and I'll take you through that journey as well, as I'm learning how to do it myself, and I will teach you how to do it, and then you can create your own distro as well, or maybe join forces with me and we'll work on the same distro together. That would be a great idea. So let's just get going. So first of all, I'm going to show you the website. Let's see if I can get that grabbed, the website now quickly. The website, where is it? Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, got it. Okay, so you can see the website here, and so yeah, you can see all these files, right? Okay, so what we need to do, we need to take I'm going to pick up the latest one, right, which is like raw.xz. xz is like zip. So if you understand archived packages, when you shrink and you compress lots of files together so that they take less space. In this case, look at that. Some of these archives is like 423 megabytes, and then there's even a 2 gigabyte one here. Yeah, so if it's miniaturized or minimum raw architecture, you'll find them smaller, and then obviously if you have a bigger system with a lot more packages and that kind of stuff, it will be bigger. Yeah, it makes sense that way, right? But so we're going to download, first of all, we're going to download two files, right? We're going to download the raw xz file, one of them, the latest one, and we're going to download ELF file, right? So we need both. We need something called you probably see it here on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the 6th line up from the list, right? You got uboot qemu virt s mode.elf. So payload uboot qemu. So download that and download the other file as well, the corresponding one. Same version of, make sure it's the same version of Fedora. developer raw hide, whatever, and just download that as well, the XZ file, and then we're going to uncompress it on Linux. So in Ubuntu, we're going to uncompress it, and then we're going to spin off the emulated RISC-V architecture. So let's just do that now, and then we'll work for it. Although I've done it, I'm going to repeat the steps, so at least you can see what the commands are and stuff like that, and then we'll progress step by step through this. Okay, so let's get back to our screen again. Let's see, Ubuntu screen. Oh, there it is. Okay, so first of all, let's just do that. So yeah, we'll first grab the XZ file. So the way to grab the XZ file, download the XZ file and the ELF file is like that. Let's move this screen here. Let's sort out. Yeah, I've got too many screens. Yeah, so first of all, wget, right? That gets from the web. So web-get, right? And there's the URL that we were just having a look at, the fedoraproject.org. And the file that I'm going to grab is this one here, Fedora minimum rawhide 2020-0108 date, right? Okay, I could have chose a different date, but it's just an example. And it's an XZ file. So as soon as I press enter, it's going to start downloading. Because I've already done that before, I don't want to overwrite it, and it takes a lot of time as well, especially if it's 2 gigs or something. It's going to take a long time, and I don't want to keep you in the stream waiting and just watching paint dry. So I'm going to assume that you do this and it takes your time, whatever. And after that, once you've finished with that, you're going to replace this with the ELF file. So it's not exactly like that, but this is a quick way of doing it. So I'm just going to delete this part, and I'm just going to look for the ELF file. Should have it somewhere here. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, so it's the same location, same URL, but it's just a different name. Okay, so copy that and paste it here. So this is the ELF file. So you're going to do exactly that same step. Okay, wget the URL, and then this time the ELF file. Once you've done that and you've downloaded both files, okay, I'm going to assume that you've done that now. Right, we're going to do the next step. Okay, so once we've done that, next thing is we start up the QML. It's that easy. That was the hardest part. That's really it. Okay, now there's a lot of parameters to start the QML system, qemu system. I keep calling it QML. qemu system, virtual emulation for the RISC-V, but I'm just going to copy and paste it, and then on another day we'll go into the detail, but I'll show you where all these files are. So let's just check if I wrote it correctly. Yeah, that's the correct one. Got it. Yeah, I'm just modifying it. So as you can see, probably, I don't know if you can see it or not. Okay, so let's just have a look. So you got I called it Fedora. Yeah, that's LTRA. I should have downloaded it here. So yeah, I've got one called Fedora Raw, which I've used before. Okay, and this is when we unzipped this file. Yeah, oh, I didn't show you how we unzipped it. Let me show you how we unarchive in Linux as well, just to cover that base. But once we unarchive this, this is what we'll get, right? So we get this raw file. Okay, and because I've done this before, I renamed, or I made a copy of this file here. You can probably see that it's exactly the same size. Yeah, I just called it Fedora, so when I'm typing out, it should be a little bit shorter. Okay, so I called it Fedora Raw, and I'm just going to show you quickly how to unarchive. Okay, so to unarchive, you use something called XZ. There's other tools, but I just use it because it's XZ file, and whatever, I just use that. So to unarchive, you do this like that. Okay, and that will unarchive the package, and it will create the raw file. Because I already have it, it's really pointless me doing it again. It will just overwrite this file. Okay, so once you've done that, and this is all done, then we can just say clear the screen, and I've got the file called Fedora minimum raw hide, yeah, .raw, or I can use this one here called raw, yeah, Fedora raw. Let me actually, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll call it, I'll show you how we can just make another copy of this. So I'll call it Fedora minimum whatever. Let's call it something easy. So we do it together. Okay, and this time I'm just going to call it Fedora. Actually, just call it qemu-kvm. How about that? qemu-kvm.raw. Okay, of course, this is not the operating system, but hey, we'll just do that. And this will make a copy. So it will copy that file and give another, make a duplicate file and call that file qemu-kvm.raw. I hope you're finding it easy so far to follow along. So now I should have, let's have a ls quickly list. So this is like dir in Windows, where you see the directory. I've got qemu-kvm.raw here. Okay, same size. Okay, same size. So everything is fine from in that sense. And yeah, now what we want to do, we want to have that string again, and I'm just going to modify parts of it. So let me clear the screen first, so it makes it nice and clean. And yeah, let me just paste this instruction. Okay, so first of all, I need to modify from what I wrote before. I called it fedora.raw. This is the file that it's using. Yeah, I call it qemu-kvm.raw. And let's just see if it starts off. Yeah, so we want the qemu-system RISC-V 64, right? Is this what we want? No graphic, machine virtual, and then we choose the memory, 2 GB, kernel, Fedora minimum. Yep. Same thing, the ELF. I could have renamed the kernel into something else, ELF, to make it smaller. Called it qemu-kvm ELF maybe. Could have done that. But I've used the file name, device, yeah, so hard disk, where the storage, the drive, the file, yeah, so you can see, right, format is raw, which is the type of format here. If it's ISO, I could put ISO, right? So that's just some of the basic stuff here. So we're gonna run this off now and see where we get to, right? Let's see, hopefully, inshallah, it works. If it doesn't, we'll try to figure it out together. Okay, so it looks like it's booting. Alhamdulillah. Okay, let's watch this together. Maybe I should just move my screen, my webcam. Let me put the webcam here for a minute. I think that you can see it better now, like that. Except the screen is in this side, so I'm going to move it. That's why I'm looking at this kind of like screen. Okay, so I've moved the screen to here. Okay, so it's starting up. Looks like it's going fine so far. Just the screen while it's you can see that it's clear. I think it's clear like that. Just make it smaller and move this one up, move the screen up higher. Screen. I'm just adjusting the screen so it's more visible for everyone watching. So yeah, you can probably see right at the bottom there, it's got a login screen. Hope you can see that. Let's move it up slightly so you can see the login screen there. Actually, I don't need the top part. I can move it like that. That's it. So you can see the login screen. Maybe I could just enter twice just to, so you can see a login screen on the thing. So the login is actually on the screen here. It says user is RISC-V. Okay, and the password is Fedora rocks. Okay, so I'm going to type RISC-V here, and it should ask me for the password. I'll say Fedora rocks exclamation mark, and I think that's it. And it should log me into the RISC-V. So now I'm inside RISC-V Fedora. So now we're basically at the point where we wanted to reach. We wanted to reach where I've now spun off a Fedora RISC-V distro on a RISC-V architecture, which is emulated using QEMU. So this is basically the end of the stream. But I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. And that's it. I can just search. I could do whatever I want. I can make a directory or whatever. I create a directory, install other stuff, do maybe sudo at update. Would that work? Yeah. So now it's asking me for the sudo password. I think it's called Fedora rocks. I think like that. I think password. Let me check now. Oh no, it's not like that. I can't remember now. I think I typed it wrong again. Yeah, so okay, doesn't matter. 3 incorrect password attempts, and now I'm out. So let me try it without sudo. I can't remember the password. I've already typed it, and I've forgotten the password already. So there's no apt. Okay, so yeah, we can start installing stuff, package manager, and other stuff as well, and we can move in that way. So let's go like that. DRA. Okay, we can go back root. Yeah, and then I'll start navigating through this, see what files are there and what packages and applications we have, and I'll let you know. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the stream, and yeah, do subscribe, do like the stream if you liked it, suggest other ideas or anything else I can share with you. Again, the whole computer architecture is not like exactly in my field, although I've done a number of master degree computer science. I'm mainly a software engineer, and this is kind of my area, and I've done also artificial intelligence and machine learning and all that stuff, interesting stuff as well, data science, and yeah, all these interesting, exciting fields. But yeah, computer science is a very, very big ocean. There's so many disciplines in computer science. You could become a games developer, financial application developer, a hardware engineer, and all that stuff. But I'm trying to learn as much as I can, and whatever I learn, I have that commitment that I'm going to share that knowledge with you, and I hope it does benefit you. And if you need any help or advice or anything at all, do reach out. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitter. I don't really use Facebook that much, so if you want to reach me, the best way is through LinkedIn, or make a comment below as well, and we can connect. Okay, and if you're visiting the RISC-V Europe conference in Barcelona in June, I'll be there inshallah, and maybe we can network and connect together, and we can discuss different ideas. Yeah. And ultimately, my mission with qemu-kvm isn't really to make profit. I am a profit-making company, qemu-kvm, but I'm basically doing all that stuff so I can make a social contribution. So it's mainly like a social enterprise, where it really benefits for education and stuff like that. And the revenue comes from this channel and other social media channels. 100% of it is going to go as a donation to support refugees and homeless and people that are in dire need, people that don't have an opportunity to learn or to to get the same advantage or same opportunities in life as we do. And yeah, just trying to give everyone as fair chance in life as possible. Yeah. So inshallah, thank you very much for now, and I'd like to say to you, Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Take care for now. Bye bye.